Joining me now, former U.S. Border Patrol Chief and Deputy Commissioner, former acting ICE Director, Ron Vitiello. Ron, good to see you. Is this a good news in terms of what you're seeing and the opposition from a growing number of Democrats?
Finally, some sense is taking hold either in the administration and certainly in those Senate seats, especially the ones on the bubble like Senator Kelly. Title 42 is the smallest break as it relates to policy on an out-of-control border. The border has been out of control for quite some time. You know, I was in the Border Patrol for 33 years. I've never seen anything like what we're seeing on our southwest border now. They ended the migrant protection protocols. They ended the asylum accords with the safe third countries. And now they're talking about doing away with Title 42, which is a public health order. It's been on the books since the 70s. It helps allow CBP and the Border Patrol to quickly expel migrants that come to the border that claim asylum to protect us from the pandemic. And taking it off is going to take what is now utter chaos into catastrophe, because it's the only thing that gives us a little bit of a control at a border that, like I said, it's never been as bad as it is right now. We're over 1 million apprehensions and encounters so far this year, heading somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 million before the year's out.
And this is a financial burden, not just on border communities and border states, Ron, but also these illegal immigrants are being sent far and wide across the country into an untold number of towns at a time when people and communities are already struggling financially and economically. And then you add in the fentanyl coming across the border, and fentanyl poisonings are now the #1 killer of young Americans. And where is the empathy, the sympathy, and the leadership from Biden Incorporated?
It's terrible how bad they are at this. It's very disappointing. And you're right to point out that the burden of this uncontrolled chaos at the border, it wears on public health resources. It increases crime. And these cartels are now in charge of what goes on the border. And so they're allowed to bring their poison into the United States undetected, because if we're making over 1 million encounters so far this year, just imagine the tens of thousands of people who are never encountered by CBP or the Border Patrol, because they're using their resources to take care of these people, to do the process and the booking procedures. And then we're sending people all over the country on alternatives to detention or notices to report. So this chaos, it doesn't just stay at the border. It's really bad there. It's bad for the people who have to deal with it. But you're right to point out it's going to be spread all across the country. Again, public health resources, schools, hospitals, increased crime, increased drugs across the nation.
And poisonings. I call them fentanyl poisonings. They're not overdoses. But I'd like to see some of these people in the administration start going to some funerals. That might, at least they could show they care. On Monday, and speaking of uncaring, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was pressed by Fox News' Peter Doocy on if she and the president would apologize over the now debunked claim that border agents whipped illegal migrants near the border. Ron, listen to this, and I want to get your reaction.
When is the president going to apologize to them?
There is a process and an investigation that's gone through the Department of Homeland Security. I don't have any update on that.
Will you apologize?
And Peter, there was an investigation into their behavior. So that investigation is playing out. Whenever it's going to be announced.
Ron, I think that when this happened, when Joe Biden himself stood up in front of the American people and castigated these overworked, loyal border agents and accused them of strapping illegal migrants. And that was Joe Biden's word. I think, and again, even the photographer who took this photo at the time said that what was being said about it was wrong, about that they were whipping migrants. But Joe Biden himself stood up in front of the American people and targeted these individuals. And I think that was a huge tipping point for people. You layer on Afghanistan and then this. The lies, it's the lies, but also the undue, unfair criticism of people who are just trying to do their jobs. And now They can't apologize? Your take?
How ironic she wants to talk about an investigation now, that there's an investigation ongoing, and probably there is. But that was after the president condemned these agents, the vice president condemned these agents, and so did the Secretary of Homeland Security. All three of them owe those agents an apology because, like you said, the reporter who took those photos knows that no one was struck in those images. And those agents were put in an impossible task when thousands and thousands of people elected to try to cross that border all at the same time. They were put on that front line with an impossible task. And then that happened, and they were condemned by the highest levels of leadership in the country. The three of them are lawyers. They all know what the due process rights are for individuals who are accused of things in the United States. But yet they, even though they're all law school graduates, they condemn those agents for doing their job.
Before we go, Ron, Univision recently airing a segment where they interviewed a swim coach who is training migrants on how to maneuver in the Rio Grande and cross into the United States. The swim coach says that more people are being added to his course's wait list every day. This is next level insanity, Ron.
Agree. The incentives at our border and the immigration policies that have been promoted by this administration, it's got everything upside down. That border is in utter chaos, and that's an example. This kind of thing, incentivizing people to come or trying to protect them, it's crazy.
Ron Vitiello, thank you so much for being here always. We'll be right back.